now into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Every time I say it, it's going to suck even more.
Everyone's idiots.
I am Manila. Well, I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing. Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host today. My name is Wes, and I'm here with Landen.
Hello.
And Caleb.
I'm a can of biscuits, and I'm probably going to explode.
It's true. Listener, I mean, you know, if you had a grandma or a mom that, you know, or yourself, you know, you go open those can of biscuits. It's really hard to get those biscuits back in the can, right? And we're going to be talking more about rants, and we have a feeling that there's going to be some rants that just pop open out of this can, and we're not going to be able to put it back. So,
yeah.
But also, apparently, the big pigeon that fell through my roof, I got it taken care of, and I'm here.
That's good. We're happy.
It's good. Yeah, the pigeon. We'll just leave it at that. Anywho, we got some stuff to talk about quite a bit here, so we're going to dive into this pretty quickly. I believe Apple, I think they announced a bunch of stuff, right? Well, and on here it says that Caleb is only mildly annoyed. So,
yeah.
Caleb, take it away with the mildly annoyance.
We're just gonna we've already pulled the paper off the can of biscuits. This moment right here is me just shoving my thumb into that seam. I'm gonna start right out the gate with the thing that mildly annoys me about all of these announcements, because for the most part, these announcements are either innocuous or actually good.
Yeah.
Okay? So general consensus coming out of this is that I'm happy. Listener, and I want to get that out of the way because I'm going to start by talking about the MacBook Neo, and I am so pissed about that name. I can't. Why? Apple, you had this moment, this perfect, beautiful moment to fix your entire MacBook lineup. It was gonna be perfect. And this machine slots in there so nicely. It's so good. Why can't you just call a MacBook a MacBook?
So I have to tell you, I'm like, oh, Apple announced their new MacBook today. I need to go look at the website. And I go in Neo? That's stupid. And then my next thought was, oh, Caleb's going to hate this.
The worst part about it was that this name leaked the day before they announced it.
Yeah.
And I saw the leak and I was like, no, they can't. That's the dumbest thing ever. That's an internal code name. That would be so stupid. And then they announced it, and it was. Their stated reason for this is because they're like, we want to let people know that this is new, that this is different. It needs to feel different. It's a new type of MacBook. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's an entry-level MacBook. You know what we call those? MacBooks. You know what we've always called it? It's a MacBook.
Yeah, Apple, you do remember, so my very first MacBook in 2006, when I bought this thing, was an entry-level MacBook. It was the white plastic unibody MacBook. You know what it was called? A MacBook.
It's a MacBook!
You've done this before, Apple. It was fine.
Anyways, okay. There. We got all the biscuits out of the can. We're going to bake those up. They're going to be nice and fluffy. Have some lovely biscuits and gravy later. Because honestly, the MacBook Neo is a pretty good machine.
Yeah.
Okay? It has an A18 Pro chip in it. It is a binned version of that chip, has less GPU cores than the actual version that was in the phone. Okay, so GPU performance is going to be a little bit lower, but it's a newish chip, year old. It's a newish chip. It's got high quality CPU cores, high quality GPU cores. It's got neural processor stuff going on. It's a good chip. And we've been saying for close to a decade at this point, we've been talking about how completely ridiculous the chips that Apple puts into their phones really are. Like, you know, it's been a while since we've been like, you know, I feel like you could power a desktop operating system off of the silicon that they're building into their phones. And turns out, yes,
Yeah.
that's been true for a while. And so, yes, it's got an A series processor in it, but there are benchmarks available for the thing already that show some interesting stuff. Despite the fact that it has fewer CPU cores, GPU cores especially, than like the original M1, this thing benchmarks remarkably close to the M1 MacBook Air that was technically the entry-level MacBook since it released, right? That has been available brand new from Walmart at $600 ever, like for the past like 3 years or something like that. You know, it's been a while. And that was kind of just quietly sitting at the bottom of the Mac lineup as a really solid entry point for the vast majority of users. And that's what the MacBook Neo is. It's a pretty similar level of power to that. And it kind of falls into that same slot as that entry-level MacBook Air, that the M1 and MacBook Air that is no longer available from Walmart. So same price, similar amount of power. A few notable differences between that and the M1 is that the individual CPU cores are significantly stronger in the Neo than they were in the M1 MacBook Air. So single-threaded tasks will go a lot faster on the Neo. The multi-threaded speed, like power, is about the same. You have fewer threads, like fewer cores on the Neo than you did on the M1, but you know, because they're more powerful cores, it kind of balances out for multi-threaded workloads. But the GPU on the Neo, even though it is less cores than the A18 Pro that shipped in the iPhone, whatever iPhone that was, I can't even remember. Was that last year's iPhone? I can't remember. Anyways, whatever number that was, those GPU cores are quite a bit more powerful than the GPU cores that were on the M1 MacBook Air. And so your graphics intensive stuff should be a little bit faster on the Neo. It's got a newer version of their kind of like media accelerator for A series chips and newer neural engine stuff. So all of those workloads should be faster on this than it was on the M1 MacBook Air. So it is still an upgrade over the M1 MacBook Air, not by a ton, just a little bit, but it costs the same. It's $600.
Yeah.
And it's available in all these fun colors.
Yes.
You know, like it's pretty. Like I can't. What were the names of the colors? I can't remember what they were. Is that written down in my notes here? I don't think it is, but it is. I mean, there's 4 colors. There's a silver one. There's like a lilac-y kind of dark purpley sort of one, and then there's a blush. I'm pretty sure is the pink one's name, and then the yellow one.
The colors, I'm on their website. There's silver, like you got right. Blush is the pink one. Citrus is the yellow one.
Citrus, that was
and indigo is the blue one.
Yeah. So they're nice. A range of colors, not as large of a range as I personally would have liked, but still, they look nice. I do like the yellow one.
The yellow one.
I think a lot of people like the yellow one. I think that one's been kind of selling out pretty quick. So yeah, it's a 13-inch display that has kind of the same, you know, retina pixel density that you expect out of a MacBook screen. 500 nits of brightness, so not MacBook Pro levels of brightness by any stretch of the imagination, but bright enough, you know, for most workloads. Does have an anti-reflective coating on the glass as well, so that'll help for outdoor view visibility. Does not have a notch, which is nice. Yep. Does have a slightly lower quality webcam than, you know, it doesn't have like the center stage stuff or anything like that is on the other MacBooks. And the keyboard is their magic keyboard, right? It's not like anything stupid like a butterfly or something like that. One of the most interesting changes is that the trackpad is back to a physical click. It's not like their solid state haptic click now. It has an actual button under it. But as a person who has used used a trackpad with an actual button under it on a Mac laptop for like a decade or more. Okay, it's maybe
fine.
slightly less reliable, but it'll feel really nice and it'll work great. It's a decent sized trackpad. It's multi-touch. It's got all their fancy, gesture support and stuff like that. And yeah, like it's a solid laptop. It's only got 2 speakers instead of 4 speakers. They're not going to be that great. It's only doesn't have MagSafe and only has 2 USB-C ports. Unfortunately, because this is A series silicon, that does result in some limitations on I/O. It only supports USB 3 and only 1 port of USB 3.
Yeah.
So one of these USB-C ports is USB 3 and the other one is USB 2, which would be fine. There are some complaints I've heard that I think are valid on this one. It would be fine if the ports were switched places, because the USB 2 port is in front of the USB 3 port, which means the port that you're most likely to plug into to charge the thing is the USB 3 port.
Yeah.
Which means if you plugged a flash drive or a hard drive or something into the other port, then you're only getting USB 2 speeds. So just if you want to buy this thing, just keep in mind, you want to charge from the front port, not the back port.
Yes.
Does have a headphone jack, but it's not like their fancy high impedance headphone jack or anything. It's just cheaper, I guess. So, like there's a few limitations and whatnot, but overall seems like a pretty solid piece of kit. And at $600 is right at the price point that I said last week it needed to hit in order to be a compelling, argument for your entry level MacBook. And the education discount is a thing. Like, right, I've always talked about this on this podcast as being the thing that they need to get students to buy MacBooks and get them locked into the ecosystem. And $600 is a good price point for that. But what's even better? $500.
Yeah, exactly.
So, hey. So yeah, like that, I think it sits in a really great place in regards to that. It does only have 8 gigs of RAM because of the A18 Pro.
Yeah.
That is, they're just taking the chip they had in the iPhone and putting it in this MacBook. And that means that they've got the stacked RAM on top of the CPU die for the unified memory. And that means that they only have 8 gigs of RAM. And starting storage for the thing is 256 gigs, which is not amazing. It's not terrible. And if you see pictures of this thing, it's going to show a Touch ID sensor on the keyboard. That is the more expensive version.
Yeah.
The entry-level model does not have that, has 256 gigs of storage. If you spend an extra $100, you get 512 gigs of storage and a Touch ID sensor on the keyboard. Everything else is the same. So, honestly, if you're getting the education discount, $500 starting price might be worth bumping up to $600 just to get double the storage.
Yeah.
I would say. But yeah, it's a solid price. Really, honestly, it's wild. This is probably the best bang for your buck laptop on the market right now.
Nice.
Which puts it right next to the M4 Mac Mini as the best bang for your buck desktop PC on the market, which means for both a desktop and a laptop, the best bang for your buck in terms of raw horsepower and build quality and support and stuff like that are both Macs.
Wild.
A big part of that is because of the jacked up price of RAM and storage right now.
Yeah.
But what? Like that's never been the case for Apple ever before in the history of ever. So this is wild. But yeah. There you go.
And I've heard on a lot of different people talking about this laptop saying how they don't like this isn't going to replace schools from buying Chromebooks because it's not $200 to $300.
Yeah.
And that's fine because honestly, I think Chromebooks are perfect for what schools need them to be for in school stuff. This laptop I see is more of like, hey, your kid's now into high school. It's probably going to be a good idea to get them their own computer to do stuff on.
Yes.
This is perfect for that. Or even your like college student going into college, they need a new laptop. This is going to be great for 95% of college students, 99% of high school students. I think 90% of anybody out there in the world.
Yeah.
This is the laptop to buy because it does basically everything most people are going to need a laptop to do. And for that price, it's really good. So I don't think it doesn't need to replace laptops in schools as like the Chromebooks they're already there.
Exactly.
But again, for a personal device, it's fantastic for the price that it is.
I don't think that this is going to replace Chromebook computer labs, but I think it is going to replace a lot of people, like students, buying Chromebooks for themselves.
Yeah.
Because so many like high school and college students, they recognize they don't need a laptop with a ton of horsepower because everything they're doing is in the browser. They're doing research, they're typing papers, they're doing stuff like that. They don't need a powerful, expensive laptop for that. But they want something a little bit nicer than a really cheap Chromebook. And so, they're shopping kind of in that $500 to $600 price point. And they're going to see this Mac and go, hey, don't those normally cost a heck of a lot more than that? And boy, those colors are really nice. And the whole thing's made out of aluminum. And if they're in a store where they can, like a Best Buy or something, where they can actually hold the thing, they're going to hold that and hold any PC laptop that's a similar price next to it and be like, geez, this feels way nicer.
Yeah.
And they're going to buy it. I think that this is going to sell to a ton of students, individual students, not necessarily computer labs, but this is exactly what Apple needed to release, to recapture that market. Because back when I was in college, back in my day, that you could walk up to the front of any auditorium and turn around, and 75% of all of the laptop that you saw had a glowing Apple logo on it. That was so common. Everybody had them because you could get a cheap $500 to $600 entry level MacBook. It's back. They're just calling it Neo for some reason. Other than that, I think it's a great device. Okay, moving on. They also announced the iPhone 17e, which has the A19 chip, a binned version of it again, and MagSafe.
Yes.
Hey, that's kind of the big news. So in terms of being an upgrade to last year's 16e, the 17e has the newer chip, and that's it also has a new version of the C1, the C1X, right? So it's got the most up-to-date version of that. And that's kind of the main internal upgrades, but faster charging via the USB-C port and MagSafe, which means wireless charging of any sort, but also access to their faster wireless charging versus older versions of the phone. That's great, right? It's not gonna blow anybody's minds. The camera is, from what I understand, pretty much the same as it was last year, front and back. It's not got any fun new features, does not have a dynamic island, still just a notch, whatever. Doesn't have a high refresh rate screen or anything like that, but they added back in, I feel one of the biggest, most boneheaded things that they took out last year with the iPhone 16e in MagSafe, and they didn't raise the price. Oh, they actually, not only did they not raise the price, they doubled the starting storage.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nuts. So this thing doesn't start with 128 gigs of storage anymore. It's 256. Okay. That's actually pretty dang good so $600, still a little bit rich for this phone, I feel like. But with double the storage, they put MagSafe back in it. I feel like, okay, I think that's an okay price for this device now, as opposed to last year when I thought it was straight up the dumbest thing that I'd ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. When I first saw this, I'm like, oh, that's not a bad phone anymore. Good job, Apple. Thank you.
Yes.
You did the bare minimum.
I'm still not going to buy one, but,
Yeah, this is definitely not, even for the average person, I would still recommend the iPhone 17, just because The iPhone 17 for the price is a really good phone.
It is.
Whereas this one is an obvious step down for not that much cheaper. I think it's worth spending the extra couple $100 to get the 17. But for your kid, your high schooler that might need a phone, this is now a decent option, especially if you can get that education discount or something along those lines. Not a bad way to go.
I feel like it justifies itself a lot better now. And I mean, I would say, at $600, you could still buy a Pro phone from last year for about that price. Like that still exists. Used phones are still an option. And anytime we talk about these E-series iPhones, I think used phones are going to be in the conversation because honestly, Apple has such awesome backwards support for their devices over time that, you need to consider that when you're budget shopping iPhones. But if you just absolutely have to have a phone that has the latest generation of processor in it, but you don't want to spend more than $600, I guess it's good that there's an option, and I'm glad it freaking has MagSafe now, because holy crap.
Yeah.
That was so dumb. Anyways. Okay, the next thing that Apple announced, not really a new device, because it's just MacBook Pros again. We already have those. They have not notably changed, but they are now shipping with the M5 Pro and M5 Max chips as an option. What's interesting about these chips is that they are both built on a new quote-unquote fusion architecture. Okay? So, this is into the weeds. I'm not sure exactly how Landen is chaptering this episode, but if you want to skip past the technical discussion of what makes the M5 chips interesting versus previous generations of Apple Silicon, then skip to the next chapter, maybe? I don't know. That might also skip you past the rest of the announcements, but let's be fair, we've talked about the good stuff already. So, fusion architecture is really interesting because in the past, what we have had with M-series processors is you have your M version, right? Your base version of the chip. You have your Pro, and then you have your Max, right? And these are all three separate and discrete processors. They use the same base core architecture as, across the lineup, which that's what makes them an M4 or an M3 or an M2, whatever, is that base core architecture. But the actual processor dies themselves are separate and discretely designed, right? They are different from each other. Then you have your Ultra chips. Those were a little bit different because an Ultra chip has traditionally been two Max chips smushed together with a high-speed interconnect between them. Okay? What fusion architecture is more like AMD's chiplet style of CPU design, where you have your CPU chiplet, they have a GPU chiplet, and they are smashing those together with a high-speed interconnect between the two. That's what the M5 Pro and the M5 Max are, right? They have separate chiplets for the CPU, the GPU, the neural engine, and the media engine? No. I think the media engine, neural engine, and possibly the GPU are all joined on the same chiplet. I can't remember. They have a couple of actual physical dies, and then they marry them together with a high-speed interconnect, and they have a couple of different versions of those chips that they're combining in different ways to make these things different. So what you have is, for instance, with the M5 Pro and the M5 Max, they both have the same CPU chiplet, right? They have the same die for the CPU. However, the GPU dies are quite different between the two. The Max gets like a much beefier, more complicated GPU die, whereas the Pro gets a more simple one that is like half the speed or something like that. So that's kind of the base idea. And what's interesting about this is that from like kind of a macro perspective, if you back out, that means that instead of, a situation where with the Ultra chips, like the reason we never got like the quote unquote extreme version of these processors in like the Mac Pro was because they could never get the high-speed interconnect between there was going to be 4 Max chips. They could never get that stable, apparently, and so they never released the extreme version of previous versions of the processor. With this sort of division, it's possible that we may see a quote-unquote extreme version, but it's going to manifest completely different. It's not going to be 5 or 4 M5 Max dies all smashed together. It would be maybe multiple CPU dies paired with multiple GPU dies, but maybe the CPU dies are slightly different and more advanced. Maybe the GPU dies are slightly different and more advanced. Basically, this just allows Apple to put a whole bunch of like the same type of CPU die onto the silicon wafers that they are making. And they get out a bunch of those. Some of them are going to be defective. Some of them are going to have to be binned. Some of them will have to be scrapped. But it'll increase the yields because they take up a lot less space. And then they could just take a whole bunch of them and pair them together into different SKUs and more powerful SKUs of these chips to make scaling more cost effective. So that's what's interesting about this. They also have Apple's new N1 Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip, which supports Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 6, which is great. They have a wider bandwidth for the unified memory. They support more memory. They support Thunderbolt 5 and stuff like that. So, like, it's a whole bunch of updates to the technology that are supported by these chips. But what's really interesting about it is the possibility that it spells out for how they could build out this technology in the future in a way that makes their processors both more customizable per device and more cost-effective at scale, which is going to matter if prices on other stuff like RAM don't come down at some point. But yeah, so that's the M5 Pro, the M5 Max, Fusion architecture stuff. It's all like, ooh, this is like interesting technical detail that's happening here. But, kind of at a top level, yes, the M5 Pro and the M5 Max are both faster than everything. Like they're faster than what came before. And I think we are now at the point where the M5 Max beats the M3 Ultra or M2 Ultra in GPU tasks. I think it's the first Max chip that was able to do that with their 40-core GPU setup. So, yeah, like there's some benchmarks, there's some lines we've crossed, but it remains to be seen how interesting it is in the future. Okay, anyways, that's me nerding about this. They're interesting chips. They're cool chips, but also it's kind of like not yet,
yeah.
I'm glad that they're messing around in this space, but it hasn't made a huge difference yet, but we'll see. Okay, next thing, the Studio Display XDR. So, listener, you may remember that Apple released this super high-end, like, color grading pro cinema display thing a few years ago. It had the scalloped back, like, vents that were similar to the Mac Pro's vents, which was kind of nifty, and it cost $6,000. Really freaking expensive display.
Yeah.
That thing was called the Pro Display XDR. Apple has stopped selling both it and its $999 stand, which is just too bad. That stand, it's gone. What a shame. It has been replaced with the Studio Display XDR. Now, the Studio Display XDR is kind of based on the old Studio display that Apple released that was a 5K display that looked really nice, but was honestly a giant waste of money and had an iPad chip in it for some reason.
Yeah.
Still can't remember. Or still can't figure out. Like, it was literally, I guess, to power center stage on the built-in camera, which, boy, what a waste.
Seriously.
The Pro Display XDR is based on that, but brings with it a lot of the stuff that you got with the the Studio Display XDR brings with it a lot of the stuff that you got with the Pro Display XDR, including, it's 5K resolution still. It's 27 inches. So it is smaller, but it has all of the color accuracy and the color space coverage and gamut of, flipping, what the heck was I about to say? Oh, the brightness on the thing. It is, in fact, brighter. I think the total display peak was 1,000 nits, and the point display peak was 2,000 nits, which was like 500 nits more than the Pro Display XDR or something like that. So gets quite bright, is extremely color accurate, factory calibrated and all that stuff. 120 hertz refresh rate is supported, has a support for adaptive sync for the refresh rate and everything. Bunch of upgrades, and it's half the price. It's only $3,299, which is really pretty solid. It still has an iPad processor powering it, again, because I guess center stage support on the built-in camera or whatever, which again, what a waste. But I think the biggest feature is that the regional backlighting on it, instead of being just like an LED array of backlights, it's mini LEDs instead of normal LEDs, which means it has, I want to say, like 1,200 individual backlighting zones on a 27-inch monitor versus the Pro Display XDR, which was a 32-inch monitor that had, I think, 600 or something individual backlighting zones. So it was a bigger monitor and it had half as many zones, which means that the backlight support on this thing is going to be way better. So you're going to get better HDR content, perfect blacks and stuff like that when the backlight can turn off. So really nice monitor and cheaper than the Pro Display XDR. So honestly, looks great. No complaints. They also updated the studio display. It's basically the same as it was before and costs $1,600 still. And it's a giant waste of money. Don't buy that. Studio Display XDR, thumbs up if you need a professional grade like monitor for color accurate work. Regular Studio Display, still a giant waste of money. Don't get it.
Hey, and guess what? The stand is included this time.
That's true. The stand is included.
It's included.
Now, you do have the option of getting a VESA mount instead, but that is also like part of the price. You get to choose which option, and it doesn't cost extra.
Yeah, because
so that's
on the Pro Display XDR, even just getting the VESA mount cost like, what was it, $200 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It was so dumb. Oh, good times. All right, next up, iPad Air with the M4 chip. They put the M4 chip in the iPad Air. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. I guess they did increase the amount of RAM. It now has 12 gigs of RAM instead of 8 gigs of RAM. Okay, sure. That's nice.
So it can not do your Apple Intelligence better?
Yeah, sure. It's got the N1 chip in it too, so that's their Wi-Fi Bluetooth thing. It has the C1X for the cellular models. So that's good. Gives you Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6. So that's an upgrade. Price is the same. It looks the same. It just has the M4 in it. Now, I don't know. Like, yeah, okay, cool. iPad Air. What an iPad. I guess. They did not, unfortunately, announce an upgrade to the entry-level iPad, which I think would be way more interesting, but no, unfortunately. That's okay. They did announce MacBook Air's upgrades to the M5 chip. That's it. They upgraded it to the M5 chip. Otherwise, stays exactly the same. They did double the storage capacity on the entry-level model, which would seem really nice if they hadn't basically just gotten rid of the actual entry-level model, right? It used to start at $1,000. It now starts at $1,100. So instead of paying an extra $100 to get 512 gigs of storage, you just are forced to pay an extra $100 to get 512 gigs of storage. So yeah, they basically just cut out the entry level, which would be more annoying if they hadn't also introduced the MacBook Neo like the next day. So, okay, not too upset about that. But yeah, it's got an M5 now. M5 is a good processor. So that's good.
That is good. Oof.
So,
how do you feel after all that?
Generally pretty good. Like,
Good.
for the most part, I feel pretty good about these things. It's wild that, like, Apple is some of the best bang for your buck computing that you can find right now. I'm still not okay with that. Like, that's they're supposed to be the super expensive, overpriced nonsense. I don't know what to do with them being like, oh yeah, you want a good bang for your buck computer. Have you thought about a Mac?
And
That's not
weird to
usually
say,
how that
huh?
conversation
Weird to say.
goes.
And
Yeah,
the other
most of the
benefit
time.
to it is it doesn't run Windows 11.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's always been the selling point of a Mac, but now that they're the same price, it's an added
Got
bonus.
that
Yep.
selling point.
Yep. It's wild. It's a crazy time to be alive. But yes, right now, if you need an entry-level bang for your buck desktop or an entry-level bang for your buck laptop, my honest, like, actual reasoned recommendation for the vast majority of people, unless your main goal is to play video games, is get a Mac. And if your goal is to play video games, my recommendation is, don't. I don't, man, that's real. That's a real
Wow.
tough one.
Buy a Steam
Entry
Deck.
level bang for your buck means you need to get well, his problem, Steam Decks are all like sold out because they can't get their hands on RAM.
That's
Yeah.
true.
It's a real kind of hellscape out there right now for computer buying. And Apple, because of their long-term supplier agreements, has managed to bypass a lot of that, which means that their pricing has stayed pretty constant. Will it stay constant next year? Hopefully the AI bubble has popped by that point in time. So yes, it will, but remains to be seen. But for right now, in this moment in time, beginning of March 2026, Apple is the budget choice for general computing.
That's so weird to say.
So there you go.
All right. That is so weird to say.
Yep.
Well, let's go ahead and move on. We've got some Microsoft news. Listener, you probably have heard this one. And as was mentioned in the last episode, we all are aware that Phil Spencer is gone from Xbox. He had retired. There is a new Xbox CEO, which they did mention. And I'm sure this is pretty big news. I'm sure you've heard something. Like, pretty big. And now, since I'm here, we can all have what we like to call Wes's Thoughts edition of what it is. I wondered how that would go. I actually listened to the podcast, and boy, howdy, did you guys go right past it.
We sure did.
So, my first reaction when I saw this, I was at work, just kind of was looking through stuff on a break or something, and I just saw it. And at first I was like, this doesn't make sense. Because at first I'm like, the reason why I say that is because the big game, the big 25 years of Xbox, the big thing they're throwing, the big event, your main player's not going to be there as the CEO. But I'm like, well, he'll probably be there. I had to think about it later. Like, he'll probably be there, make an appearance. Everyone will be happy. Here's 25. But it did feel like, the only thing I could think of is it's like a sports game where it's like the player that's been there the most you can count on, retired, is now gone. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, does sort of feel that way.
It's just how I felt. Like, that's the only analogy. Because I knew when this came out that I would have to think of things to say, how I'd say it. I knew. I admit, boy, howdy, did I have a lot of people asking me for this. So first off,
what do you even do with that?
and let's talk about the surface level of things. Like, Phil Spencer's gone, the one that's his biggest accomplishments. Well, I'm gonna say, not saying accomplishments, but the biggest things that he impacted the industry. 1, Game Pass. That's his. 2, backwards compatibility. brought that forward.
Yep.
3, you could say this is a good thing or bad thing, whatever, but ABK, the merger, the buying of the studios, the merger, that was his stuff, you know. I mean, you have that, and then the abruptness of it, I guess, or the leak or whatever that was happening, and then all of a sudden the new CEO comes out. They're like, "Oh, this person was from an AI thing that we did." I can't remember. It was like AI Core. Like she was a part of the team or something.
Yeah.
But even before that, 2 years before that, she was at Meta, and she's the one that helped push Messenger, make Messenger what it is. So my thoughts and feelings were, I really don't use AI. I'm not you've heard this podcast, listener. You know my thoughts on AI, but then you're getting in the meta thing, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is? It really felt like a punch in the gut, and in my mind, I was like, so I've been sitting there contemplating, and I'm like, this is it. Like, I've got to move. Like, in my mind, I was like, I have to move. I've also had some other issues with behind the scenes with Microsoft in general that I've talked to you two about, but like some things I'm like, I might have to move from console to PC. And so that was the first knee-jerk reaction. I'm like, man, I was sitting there thinking of it, and I think they just made it for me. Like, just you made the decision for me, like what I'm doing.
There you go.
But then after a minute, I was like, okay, I need to. That was Friday, so they released that and then just went home. No explanations.
Yeah, that
no
tracks.
Anything. So then the next week happens, and of course we get all the. I'm not going to bring up like all the stuff that you don't really need, like, because there is a lot of hate, I guess. Let's call it hate and stuff that we just don't need to talk about. But I was thinking, and I was like, with the track record, with everything that's being said, I mean, she definitely said the exact right things that she needed to say to approve to me. Which also makes me think she just came from AI. So obviously she knows exactly what I do on these things. So she's definitely going to say the exact right things. One thing that did make me chuckle is that she had announced that they're not going to have micro slop, AI slop on there. And I was like, the guy that just hired her said he hates people saying that. That's interesting. I found it funny, whether you want to take that here or there.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was funny. But, so as it stands, Wes's thoughts. Now that I've gone through and I'm like, okay, this gaming's a hobby. Remember that. It's a hobby.
Fair.
We have fun. I probably am the most gamer out of the three of us. I will say that. I put a lot of hours into it. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I do gaming with family, friends, all sorts of stuff. But, I mean, here's my thoughts on the whole thing. After I've heard from other Xbox CEOs that have been in and out, other things people have said, and tried to make a better idea of what it is without being all upset and just like, oh, all I can do is see what happens in this next year. You have my Game Passes all the way till, I believe I checked it, it's at the end of 2027. I'll give you a year. But my wife's Game Pass, because I can't get Game Pass anymore on rewards points, but hers is at the end of the year. She wants Fable. So she wants to try Fable. She have to the end of the year for us to even add more to this. Plus, I have to see what's happening. On top of that, not only do I have to see with her with what's happening with Asha, I believe is her name, and what they do with Game Pass, what they do with everything, but also like this new console, which we will be finding out more about in GDC later this month. The thing I need to know is obviously if my library moves forward, but also a thing that I use a lot that I can see going away quietly is when I buy a game, I don't have to buy it twice to have another person play it.
Yep.
that possibly could be going away because now it's not no longer a console version of a game. It is now a PC version.
Yeah.
Yep.
If that makes sense. So I have a couple things I'm watching to look at to see if this is the direction I'm still going, or how many PCs am I going to be buying and putting together for my family.
Oh boy. Yep.
You know what I'm talking about. So
Yep.
So right now, do I like this? Well, no. I'm going to just no. Like I enjoyed Phil Spencer. He's been the dude there. I think he's got 2 years on us as a podcast.
Yeah.
The Xbox One came out 2014, and then he took over like months after when that was announced and released.
He took over to fix the Xbox One.
Yes, he took
and
over.
He did a pretty good job with it over time, you know?
Yeah. So, do I like it? No, but I will give it to him. Like, he's been a CEO for that company for a long time compared to other CEOs. Like,
yeah.
Got to give it to him. So we'll see. I don't know. Let's be real. The surface of the whole thing saying who's taking over does not help. Not one bit.
It's what's really interesting to me. So, like, I didn't really give my thoughts last week. Here's my thoughts. Is a lot of people were fixated shortly after the announcement on the fact that, like, you look at Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer is a capital G gamer.
Yes,
right?
100%.
Phil Spencer has played games, has been playing games for decades, right? The man has a history with the hobby. He knows it. And
he's got the achievements.
He's
got the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to agree with all of the decisions he made as the CEO of Xbox, but you cannot argue that he plays games. And it's not he played games. He still plays them, right?
Yes.
Like you could find in the wild, you could run into Phil Spencer playing multiplayer Xbox games. Like that was just a thing that happened.
People have nuked him in Fallout 76.
Yes.
Nuked his base.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's a whole thing. So like that's really cool for a CEO of a game company. And I think fair to say he was probably the only one. Like you look at all the game companies, they all have C-suite executives in them that do not understand what gamers actually are and want. So like Phil Spencer was unique in that way. And so, but from that perspective, the knee-jerk reaction is very much like, how could they? How could they do this? And a lot of people latched on to the fact that just after announcing that the new CEO, Asha, was taking over, that she had created a brand new Xbox ID like a week or two beforehand.
I did see this.
And had been playing a ton of different games, hours and hours and hours of games logged, but did not exist. They're like, she has only been playing games for a week, and now she's the CEO of one of the largest game companies in the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were all like, that's ridiculous. Obviously, she's the wrong person, and she's coming from AI and Meta and all that stuff. She's terrible. She sucks. All this hate. And I just want to point out to everyone, if you didn't play games, but then you got called up by your boss, because let's be honest, yes, she's the CEO of a company, but that company is owned by Microsoft, and Satya Nadella is her boss.
Yes.
So you're called up by your boss, and they say, you're starting a new job in 2 weeks. This is what it is. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I've never done that before. If you're committed to doing a good job in your new position, what's the first thing you do? You open up and you start playing games as much as you can. You have to sink into this headspace. You have to expose yourself as much as humanly possible to this thing that you're now in charge of. Right? And that's exactly what she did. That, to me, says that at the very least, whether or not she's a gamer, she's committed to doing this job and doing it well. Right?
Right.
So that, from like a personal perspective, I see that as a good thing, right?
Right.
She, at the very least, seems committed to doing this job, which is great. So her appointment says nothing about her. And I don't think it says anything about Phil. But this whole situation just raises a lot of red flags for me about what's going on further up the chain.
Mm-hmm.
What does this say about what Satya Nadella is thinking? What does this say about what Microsoft's board of directors is thinking, right? Steve Ballmer, Gates, they're still sitting on that board. Right? What are they thinking? What's going on up at the top of Microsoft? And the fact that they're taking somebody out of the world of Copilot and AI, where they are famously not doing great.
Yes, not
and
well.
putting them at the top of Xbox, where they are famously hitting or missing, frankly, impossible earnings expectations from the top level of Microsoft. That says to me that at the very tippy top, board of directors and Satya Nadella level of Microsoft, they don't have confidence in Xbox. They kind of just want it to go away. That's what that says to me, which is not encouraging. I'm not happy about that. It remains to be seen whether or not that's the case. And honestly, I have all the hope and, for the new CEO, it seems like just from first blush that she does care. She is interested in doing well in this position, whether that's for her own personal gain or because she's trying to do what's right for the gamers, or even if it's just because she's looking at like the legacy that Phil Spencer left behind and is going, I mean, I got to at least try, right? Like I've got to try and uphold that. Whatever the case is, it seems like she is invested, and that's good. Short term, that is a positive thing. But even if she is invested, if Microsoft's board is not invested, then it doesn't matter what she does. Long term, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
So that's where my concern is. It is way too early to know, but there's not a whole lot that's super encouraging about this situation,
Yeah, no, that's why I said I'll see what happens up to next year, because I'm assuming they've already got things in line the rest of this year. Like the railroad tracks have already been planted. I would assume next year is when we're going to all of a sudden, oh, hey, we're going to sell this off and we're going to do, all these other things will happen. Or maybe, what is their fiscal year? Isn't it? Is it June?
No.
September.
September, I think.
September? Okay.
End of September.
So around that time is probably when we'll be seeing the new stuff that's happening. So, with her. So, that's kind of really it. Like, Phil Spencer gone. That sucks. New CEO that comes from where it came from. Not encouraging. And those are our thoughts. Landen, do you have any thoughts on this at all?
Strangely, I do have some thoughts, even though this is not going to affect me in any way, because, let's be honest, I'm not the gamer here, obviously. Listener, if you don't know that by now, if you've listened to only this single episode, you probably know that somehow. But so the things that I've heard a lot of people with all of these same concerns, and a lot of this same stuff has been brought up by a lot of other people. I have also heard, not everyone, but a decent amount of people that are very heavily invested. Like I've heard of people that are just as invested, Wes, as you are in Xbox gaming and Microsoft and all that stuff, that are taking a relatively positive approach to this. Now, they've got different reasonings behind that, and I don't know all of them, but there are some people I've heard that are like as bad as cautiously optimistic to positive about the direction that it could be going. Again, everyone's still, we got to wait and see, because like you said, everything that happens in the next year is already planned out. Like she's not going to have that much say on what happens in the next year, because it's already set in stone. This is going to happen. But after that year, or somewhere in that time frame, is when we'll start to see any minor to major things that start to happen. She does have a direct thumb on that on what happens in there. So, yeah, I think it's just a matter of waiting and seeing, And I think the first big thing I think that is going to be a major tell on the direction of what happens is the next console that comes out, which is rumored to be sometime next summer-ish. And I do expect that to probably be the case. So I think really whatever happens with that is going to be, is this a good direction or not a good direction? Because, that's always been, that hasn't always been the big thing for Xbox is the console, especially the last few years. They've been trying to turn everything into a console, including a fridge. But, she, at least I haven't seen directly from her, but I've heard that she's talked about trying to put more focus into the console. And that is a good thing for me, I think. Not that I have any direct, it's not going to affect me at all. But I like the idea of them trying to at least put more emphasis on a console type device, whether that's a PC just put into a console that can run PC games and console games, which is kind of the rumor it's been going for a while. Or if it is more of an actual like traditional console, I don't really care how that how the device itself is. I do want to see more emphasis on that device though from Xbox and from Microsoft, because like you guys have talked about this quite a bit the last few years, and I've heard it from other people as well. It's like they like the idea that we can now play these games anywhere for the most part, but a lot of these people that are the big Xbox gamers are those console gamers, and they want to still be those console gamers because, yes, you can play these console games on a computer with a controller and whatnot, but it's just not the same. It's like, even for me, like I understand that, like playing on a computer versus playing on a console are two different things, and you want, like, there's just a different feel about what you're doing, and the being able to play with people in a space is different than like on PC versus console. So like personally, I want to see them focus more on that console type thing versus playing everywhere. I do like that idea. I like being able to play with anybody, and they've done that. They've what they've done, what Phil Spencer has done when it comes to that is fantastic. Like that's been our whole thing since the beginning of this podcast, being able to play with anybody on any device, anywhere you want. And they've done that. Microsoft has been pushing that really hard the last 10 years, and it's been fantastic. But I still want the console, to me, even though most of my gaming in the past has been focused more on the PC side of things, I still like when I think of gaming for the most part, I still think console. Even though, again, I have played more PC games than I have console games, but I want that to be their focus. So again, we just have to wait and see. I'm not like negative on this. I'm not positive on this. I'm just kind of
giving your thoughts.
It's happening. We'll see how it goes. If it fails miserably, that sucks. If it works out well, awesome.
You remind me of something when you were talking. You were saying, that we were making fun that, your refrigerator can be an Xbox now, and this, everything's an Xbox. Well, a lot of things that I researched, and podcasts I heard that people were talking about, and it wasn't just one podcaster like this, but it was multiple that said that marketing campaign that your Xbox is in anything was actually Sarah Bond's idea. And Microsoft, from what I heard internally, is a lot of people were not happy with how that messaging went.
Well, it's because so many people are making fun of it.
Right. So many
Including
people
us.
were making fun of it. So, which brings me to another thing saying, well, if you're right, if they market this console, do their marketing right? This, maybe. But also, Sarah Bond, she did resign. So she's no longer with the company either. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll be interesting. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic just because all the things I said, but also like, am I going to have to fully move? Like, how's this? This could be expensive for me. So that's this hobby's getting really more expensive just by CEO changes.
You're just going to have to either switch over to a Linux PC or buy a Steam machine or something like that.
Or just go
Linux
fishing
is
and teach the kids how to
great.
fish or something. I don't know. I already do that, but do it more.
Actually,
But,
what's going to happen? You've already done this in a way because you've fully switched over from Windows Phone, not necessarily by choice, to Android. But you may also, not necessarily by choice, you're just going to go full on PlayStation.
Oh, jeez. I see. The thing is, though, okay.
And hell is going to freeze
allow
over.
me to have all my games that I've already purchased, the licenses to them to go to PlayStation. Okay.
Well, we know that's not going to happen.
But it's not going to happen. So yeah, if Sony's going to charge people for having crossplay, they're not going to.
No, you're okay. Now I realize you're going to go full Nintendo. Yeah, that's
that's the ticket. No,
you're just going to give up on all these high quality, really cool games and just play Mario.
I'm going to turn into the guy like, hey, do you know what CrossFit is? This new cool thing. Anywho, that's pretty much it there. Unless anyone has any other comments they want to say, we'll move on to the next thing. No?
Nope.
Okay.
I got it all out.
Good. I did too. I hope that helps everyone. I'll tell you what though, when I first heard this, if you would have got my first reactions, I would have been like, well, let's just get rid of the Xboxes. I'm going to cancel.
Despondent.
But then because it just, as soon as I heard that it came from AI, the new CEO came from AI, I was like, oh my gosh, Satya, you did it. Killed it.
Maybe this next Xbox, you're going to be able to play without a controller. You just talk to it.
That sounds terrible.
I was going to say, that's horrible.
Hey, I didn't say it was a good idea.
True. All right, let's move on. All right, listeners. So here's another topic. So we always like to bash Windows 11 all the time, any chance we get, right?
Well, Windows 11 likes to bash Windows 11. I feel like it doesn't need any help from us.
No, we just hop on the bandwagon. It helps.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I decided I would try to be better and not so much tout Windows 11, but I thought I would try to be like, hey, there's, they have things called Patch Tuesdays, things that come out. Well, maybe what I'll do is before the patch would come out, maybe we'll talk about it and be like, hey, have there been known bugs or something, right? So
Windows 11 is a known bug.
Windows 11 is a bug on Windows 10. Let's be real.
Yep.
So coming to March 10th, there's going to be new features, a new patch that's coming out on Patch Tuesday. As of recording, that is today's the 8th. So the recording hasn't come out yet, but they have been in testing and things like that. So the main things that they're coming out with are features. We're going to quote unquote features. Okay. So for example, the first feature is going to be the taskbar will have a speed test feature. So you can test your speed on the taskbar. Hooray. Next thing is the start menu, like a new account option. So in the start menu, it has your account, which I have seen, it'll display your OneDrive space, like how much space you're using, right there in this, all your stuff. It also will show your Xbox subscription. It'll show, little things, just a nice, easy thing. Apparently that's a feature. Next, a camera news support for pan and tilt. Sweet.
Okay.
a system monitor native support. So basically, it's a tool that's used by network administrators to enhance the standard logging capabilities. So probably not for you, listener, but for that. Widgets, new setting page. You can now use a .webp image for support for wallpapers. You know, features that are coming to Windows 11. Anyway. I love watching your face, Caleb, when I say these features, quote unquote features. Now, listener, why did I bring this up? What's the real reason? Well, I was like, this hasn't come out yet, but I did take a look at this, and it has, so far, there are no widespread issues reported with this March of 2026 patch that will be coming out on March 10th. But I would highly advise you to wait to update. I would highly advise you and wait maybe let's give it a few days, the least like a week to 2 weeks to see this roll out and see how this goes. Because, listener, I have heard so many horror stories of things happening to people, and it's just regular people at home that just use their PC for even gaming stuff, to where it's like, oh, I did the update and it fried the memory in my graphics card.
Oh yeah,
fried.
It was disabling fans.
Yes.
Was that an NVIDIA issue or was that Microsoft? I can't remember.
It was a Microsoft. So it happened
together at that.
to a family member. They couldn't figure it out. They're like, I tried to do this, and to the same person, there was like the patch before, when they would patch it, it actually like corrupted the files, and they couldn't start their computer.
Oh, good.
Yes. So listener, my point of trying to push this wasn't to tell you all the Windows 11 features, right? I just skimmed past that. It's, hey, this new patch that's coming. I know if you're me, I'm always like, oh yeah, I always like to make sure I have the next latest, greatest patch. Windows 11, I would say, hold on, wait a little bit, do a little more research, because man, some of these are pretty brutal. But as of right now, so far, no severe issues. So that's my 2 cents on that. I figured I would try to be more on this because more people are being forced to this Windows 11 or whatnot. So here's some things I could at least talk about, and you'd be like, oh, here you go. What's the issue? This or this or whatever. So later in a few weeks, when I ask again and look at this and be like, okay, let's see, is there any known issues? I will return and report on the issues, or if there is any. That's my due diligence for Windows 11. How's that? It's not so much, hey, it's great. It's, hey, this is sucking still. Don't doubt.
There you go.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on, unless anyone else has any thoughts. No? Okay. Next thing, Microsoft's Discord woes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is a fun story, listener. So you may remember a little while ago, we talked about how the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, came out, released it was like a blog post or something like that, just plaintively asking for people to stop referring to his company as Microsoft because they were pushing stupid, garbage, obnoxious AI crap slop constantly into every aspect of all of their products, and everyone hated that. One of the things that is making Windows 11 actively worse to use, speaking of Windows 11. Yeah. So, time passed, and then the users this is the nerdiest thing, but apparently Microsoft has an official Discord server for Copilot. The official Copilot Discord server, and evidently, of their own volition, normal people who are not employees of Microsoft joined that Discord server. I don't understand that, but, people were using the term Microsoft in that Discord server, sometimes to refer to Microsoft's products, such as Copilot, and sometimes just to discuss the concept of the word itself existing. Okay, They woke up one morning to find that that word had been banned on the Discord server, was no longer allowed. And so, of course, the internet being the internet, they didn't go, oh, this word has been banned, I shouldn't say it. No, they took it as a challenge and started trying to find every creative way they could to work around it, such as replacing the O's with zeros in the classic leet speak way, or just switching it around and calling it sloppy soft or something like that instead of microslop. It got hectic in the server for a while, and then the mods of the server locked it down, like disabled like chat of any sort, and then I think potentially like deleted the server, not deleted, but like locked it or something like that. It was a whole thing. That's pretty much it. Just essentially Microsoft made the most, like, they failed in the most obvious way possible in regards to this situation. Like, they don't want people to say microslop. And so Satya Nadella tells everyone in the world about the word microslop.
Yeah.
Most people didn't know that was a term until his blog post.
True.
And then we all started saying it. And so then, getting annoyed with people saying it because Satya told them not to, they banned it in their Discord server, which is obviously going to get more people to talk about it. Like, somebody at Microsoft has to have heard of the Streisand effect. Somebody somewhere in that company.
The can is opening. I can hear it.
Like, they have to know. Somebody needs to, like, walk up to Satya Nadella in the hallway and just be like, dude, stop talking about it, and eventually the internet will move on. But every time you bring it up, it's gonna start the cycle over again, and we're never gonna let you live it down. So yeah, that's Microslop continuing to slop all over everything.
That's hilarious.
Don't read into that too much.
Yeah, it's meant to be funny. Oh, man. The internet. Okay, let's move on. We're going to go to some general tech news. MWC recap.
Yeah, listener. So this past week, there's been, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff going on right now. It's ridiculous.
There was a lot, yeah.
So MWC happened, which if you don't know what that is, Mobile World Congress, it happens in Barcelona, Spain every year. And it's basically CES, but more mobile tech than anything else. A lot of phones, laptops, tablets, a lot of smart glasses nowadays, I guess, is a thing as well. Just all the mobile technology, but big conference for it. So I'm not going to go through a lot of stuff, but I just want to mention a few things that I thought was interesting that came out of MWC this year. One thing that was announced was Motorola is making a Razr Fold. So they've had the regular Razr, that's your traditional flip style foldable phone. They've announced that they're coming out with a fold, the bigger fold phone, like the Samsung Fold, or stuff that Huawei's come out with in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We don't have a price on that yet for the US. European pricing is set at 2,000 euros, so you can do the math. It's going to be expensive, which is kind of sad because, like, that's been the best part of the Razr flip phones is they've been pretty good phones for a much better price than what Samsung is offering. So we'll have to wait to see exactly what the pricing is going to be when it does come to the US. That being said, I am pleasantly surprised with some features of it. Like, it's got a 6,000 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery, which that's great. It's got a triple camera array that are all 50 megapixel sensors, also nice. Yeah, I think it'll be a decent option. We'll have to wait to see exactly how good of the mechanism is behind there. If it's anything like their flip phones, I think it'll be nice. I'm really hesitant on the price. But
That's the big thing with this one.
Yeah.
Is the price. It's
I mean,
like,
if they can get it to anywhere, I think if they can get it under $1,500, it's probably, I can't say it's worth it, but it's going to be a decent buy because the Samsung one has been $1,800 since the beginning. And if you want the trifold, you're spending, I mean, nearly $3,000. So don't buy that. But if they can get it at that $1,500 or less price point, I think it's definitely worth looking at if you want this style of a folding phone. So that's kind of neat. The one thing that I actually really like that came out of this, it's a concept phone. It's not anything you can really buy yet. Who knows if you'll ever be able to. But the company is called Techno, and no, this is not the maker of the Techno Super Bowl game. Actually, that was Tecmo, not Techno. The football game on the NES. That's not that. But Techno, they came out with a concept modular phone. And listener, you may remember back in the day, Google had a modular project called Project Ara, I believe is what it was. And I loved the idea of that. And then Motorola came out with a phone that had modules for it that snapped on and off the back of the phone. LG had a worse version of that, but they had one.
Yep.
This one is more similar to the way Motorola did it, where it snaps onto the back of your phone via magnets. It has data connections via Bluetooth, millimeter wave, Wi-Fi, and pogo pins, because duh, that makes the most sense.
Yep.
And like they've got a wide variety of different modules that can come on here. One of my favorites that you'll probably have seen if you've looked up this phone is basically a giant camera lens. Like it snaps onto the back of the phone. It's got a shutter button. It gives you a nice big camera lens that you can take much better pictures with, I would imagine. But I think, with the implementation of MagSafe, I do believe that the idea of modules that can work similar to this is actually doable now in a much more serious way than it ever was before. Because like I said, this has pogo pins, which isn't hard to do. It's something that Apple already has on all of their iPads, because if you want to connect one of their keyboards nowadays, that's one way it connects for a faster, less latency typing experience.
Yep.
So the idea of them putting it on a phone makes sense, and it's not hard. They've already got MagSafe. Google could also do this because they also have MagSafe. Just add the pogo pin implementation, and the ability to just snap on something on the back of your phone makes a whole lot of sense now. And in this implementation is also it's not necessarily future proof, but it in a way is, because as long as you keep the space open for something to go where the magnet can connect to the phone, then you can use these modules on future phones. And whereas the way LG did it and the way Motorola did it in the past, it was really difficult to really change the way the phone worked in future iterations of the phone. Motorola had basically the same body of a phone for 3 years because they committed to 3 years worth of compatibility of their modules. And the way they had it wasn't as seamless as what MagSafe is. Whereas the way MagSafe works, as long as it fits into that back profile of phone, which isn't going to change, I don't see anyways, that dramatically in the future. As long as the camera bump doesn't take over the whole back of the phone, please, Apple, don't do that, then we're fine. So I really like the way that... Now, I don't know if they're using actual MagSafe to connect these phones. I haven't seen anything that... It's just a magnetic system that I'm hearing it called. So it could be a proprietary magnet setup, but there's no reason you couldn't use MagSafe to do this. And so, like, the idea of a quote-unquote modular phone just basically giving you the ability to add different accessories to the phone is actually something that could happen, and relatively easily. So the fact that there is a company doing this now and showcasing, yeah, it can be done, I love that. So thank you, Techno, for proving that this can be done and relatively easily. Now I want to see a company actually do this and sell a phone that can do this, because again, this is a concept. This is not something that's going on the market, and because it's Techno, I don't think it ever will, because they are known for doing this type of thing at MWC. They come up with these wild phone ideas that never make it to market. So hopefully this actually happens, because again, I think it's fantastic. When Project R was first announced back in the day, I was all over that. I was truly hoping that would become a real thing, and then it just never did. But I think it's because the implementation back in the day was not great, whereas this makes a whole lot of sense. Something that is thankfully a concept and you can't buy it, and hopefully, well, okay, it's probably going to come to fruition at some point in time, but don't buy this, listener. Lenovo came up with what they are calling the AI Workmate. Basically what this is for people that work from home, which is a lot more of us nowadays, and you don't have that, interaction with people directly one-on-one. Like, yeah, you have like a company Slack or Discord or something where you can talk to people that way, but this is basically an AI system that just gives you someone to talk to. And that's a bad idea.
Yep.
So, listener, don't buy that. Now, on to the weird things that... Okay, not that any of this hasn't been weird, but this is an even more... This is the CES side of MWC. So, somebody came out with this... It's called Pet Phone. And it is what it sounds like it is. It's basically a device that you put on the collar of your pet that... This is my favorite thing. It says, if your pet jumps in the air 3 times within 6 seconds, good luck training your animal to do that, it will be able to call you.
What?
Or you can call it and talk to your pet via this pet phone device.
So if you've got a hyperactive dog, it's just going to be calling you constantly.
Yeah, it's going to call you when you get home because, traditionally
You're right
that's
in front of it.
That's when your dog gets excited and it's like, oh, play with me, play. No, that's not when you want it to call you, because you can talk to it. Right?
Obnoxious.
I mean, it does have other features like GPS tracking, activity alerts, health monitoring, but you can already get that in a collar that doesn't have this. I mean, it's also not small. It looks to be a relatively large product that I can't imagine is comfortable for your pet. So that's a thing. Don't buy it. Yeah.
Ugh.
So that's, obviously there was way more stuff talked about at MWC, including something else that we're going to mention in a minute, but that's what I wanted to mention just in this quick little recap of what happened at MWC. Again, there's way more, but that's just the weird and interesting things that I found.
Sure. Wow. All right. Well, let's move on from that. And Meta is, in fact, watching you sleep.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and other things. So this was just a thing that kind of leak. It was a bit of a leak, but it was sort of like people who were just generally uncomfortable with their job.
Yeah.
Talking to some folks in the press about their experience. And essentially, so you remember a few years ago how Ring doorbells, it came out that Ring doorbells were sending your video feed to Amazon, and that there were employees at Amazon who were like most of the time, probably people weren't actively looking at your live video feed from your doorbell, but sometimes they were. They were just watching, and they were using it, like tagging the things that were happening in the video for analysis by their AI. Turns out Meta has been doing that. And not just when you're actively recording, all the time, from Meta Ray-Bans. That video feed is always accessible to the company, and they send it to a subcontractor in, was it Nigeria, I think, where the employees of this subcontractor are just taking what is in the video feed and tagging it and stuff so that it can be digested by the AI to help train their onboard AI. So there's a subtle difference between the Ring situation, which people got really pissed off about, and the Meta situation. It's that, generally speaking, I don't know about you, listener, but generally speaking, I personally don't wear my doorbell when I go to the bathroom or change my clothes or anything like that. Like, generally speaking, my doorbell is just pointed toward the street, outside of my house, in public space, generally, where people are not likely to be doing anything that they're going to be really super embarrassed or upset about people watching. Whereas I do happen to know quite a few people who, I don't know, use the bathroom with their glasses on. Kind of like, listener, all three of us on this podcast wear glasses. Do you guys take your glasses off when you pee?
Always. Always.
What, you don't? What? You don't?
I guess I was alone on this one. So yeah, that's the situation, listener. And it's the people that were coming out of this subcontractor and approaching members of the press and saying this stuff were basically just saying stuff like, yeah, I've seen people changing in the mirror. I've seen people use the bathroom. There are people that don't take their glasses off when they have sex. That's a thing. And we've seen those video clips and had to tag them for the AI. Like, hey, this is what a naked person looks like. It's like, I don't know how you're tagging that video clip. So that's a thing that has been happening with Meta. And listen, I have said on the podcast before that if you see somebody wearing Meta Ray-Bans, you should assume that you are being recorded. Turns out I was way more right than I thought I was. It's not just the person watching you that could be recording you. Meta is just always recording everything, I guess. And listen, you can continue with my blessing, continue to go up and just punch those people right in the face once again, so long as you do it in a way that breaks the glasses. That's the key. And if anybody asks, I wasn't punching them. I was punching the surveillance device on their face. It just happened to be on their face at the time. But if you have Meta Ray-Bans, please don't do it for me. Don't do it for anyone else. If you're still wearing them, I have to assume it's because you're kind of selfish. Do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe don't show people in Nigeria everything that's happening in your life. Just a thought.
Yeah. Yeah, that I want to move on from that. That's just
Yeah, me too. I would love to move on from the whole concept of those things.
All right, next topic here, something from nothing.
Yeah, this is better news.
It's not a high
Question
bar.
mark?
I mean, it's not bad news, let's say that. So, yes, it is definitely better news. So, listener, the company Nothing, who has the worst and best name in technology, came out with 2 new phones this week. I don't know if this was I think it was also at MWC, actually. And shockingly, there were no leaks about these phones. Like, what did Nothing do? Like traditionally, every company leaks stuff. And
True.
And considering Carl Pei is the guy behind Nothing, who was once at OnePlus, who never holds anything, like they leak their own stuff on purpose all the time. So it's weird. I don't know what happened, but it happened. But they announced the Nothing Phone 4A and the Nothing Phone 4A Pro. And I mean, Nothing is the only place where they actually get naming right. Everything else is stupid. And these phones, honestly, aren't even that different from each other, which is like, you would think a Pro phone, like, yes, it is again, naming on Nothing's phones, like the A being there, you would assume is maybe a lesser device, and that's not entirely wrong. Why are they making a Pro version of the lesser? I don't know. A lot of these companies do this, and it doesn't ever make sense to me. But the biggest difference between these two phones is really how they look. And the Nothing phones traditionally have had that glyph interface on the back. And the 4A still has that. The 4A Pro, on the other hand, is an all-aluminum body. But the camera island, I mean, it's putting it's making that look normal, I guess. That's where the little glyph interface is there. And it's also got the transparency that, again, Nothing is relatively known for, just on the camera bar island thing. Whereas the 4A has it, as you would expect from a Nothing phone. It's like most of the back of the phone is, you can see into the phone a little bit, see you can't really see any of the mechanism behind the phone, but you can see things. But it's interesting. The other difference between these two phones is the regular 4A is not going to be coming to the United States, and the 4A Pro is said to be coming to the United States.
Huh.
Which is, again, kind of interesting. Yeah. And the 4A Pro is going to be $500. And the 4A, I don't know what the price on that is going to be, because obviously it's not coming to the US. And I think the price that I saw on it is close to that 400 euro, 300 euro type price. But yeah, they both have, the other difference is, so the Pro has a 6.83 inch display, whereas the 4A has a 6.78 inch display. And the 4A has a 30 hertz to 120 hertz refresh rate, whereas the Pro can go up to 144 hertz. The cameras on the back are basically the same. The chip inside the Pro has the Snapdragon 7S Gen 4 processor, whereas that's the 4A has the 7S processor, whereas the Pro has the Snapdragon 7, I don't know which. I would imagine the Pro is better, but I don't know. The S would. Qualcomm, again, they also have really horrible naming systems, so it's hard to tell. But I mention these phones just because Nothing is still relatively unique when it comes to these phones, because they have that glyph interface, and the regular 4A has that transparent idea behind it. The Pro, like I said, does have that just in a much smaller area. It's only on part of the back of the phone where the camera is. And now, it's got the new all aluminum unibody on the phone. For the prices that the Nothing phones have come out with, and the specs that you get, they're actually not bad phones. And from what I understand, the cameras on both of these phones have gotten significantly better over the years, which is what most people really care about, is having a decent camera on your phone. So if you want something that's unique, that doesn't look like everyone else, Nothing is giving you that with both of them, honestly. And to be fair, the 4A Pro, the whole back is not transparent and doesn't have the bigger glyph system, but you're going to be putting it in a case most likely anyways. So only having it on the camera bar is fine because that's what people are actually going to see. So there you go. Some new phones from nothing.
There you go. Nice.
Giving us nothing to talk about.
There's nothing to talk about. Go ahead and move on. Gonna get into some gaming news. Just something real quick here. We did mention this a little bit, but Xbox did tease this week with a 7-second clip. The Xbox new console, Project Helix, with a new logo. I don't know if it's the new Xbox logo or just the Helix logo.
It's a logo.
It's a logo. You could probably, yeah. So basically, they launched it and they said, "Hey, we're going to be at GDC." Basically, learn more there. So,
okay, I'm just now seeing this logo, and that, as somebody that has created logos for different things in the past, this is an interesting choice.
Yes, if you want to see the logo go swoosh and whoosh and form the X, there's a 7-second trailer on YouTube. Take a look at it.
It's like, I get what they're going for there because, you know, they're showing a very zoomed in, cut down portion of a helical pattern in 2D in a way that makes it look like an X.
Yep.
So they're playing all of their stuff there. The helical pattern, obviously, is a double helix is the shape of DNA molecules.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that's
right.
It's DNA, and Xbox has the X. So they're playing with the idea that this is something to do with like the genes of Xbox, and that's kind of, you know, where their head was at, I'm sure. It doesn't communicate much beyond that because are we changing the genes of Xbox, or are we going back to the genetic roots of Xbox? It could be either. Like, is this a complete shift in the direction or a return to form? Or
yeah, exactly.
I guess we'll find out later, but yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, so when we find out later this month, is it next week? I can't remember the top of my head, listener.
I can't remember.
But we'll find out more information, which then, this is actually part of my wish list for our wish list episode. So I said, I just want to know what this is. So we might get this here this month. So we'll see. Like you said before, we'll find out what this plan. We'll find out. So first thoughts, it's a logo. It's a 7-second trailer. Yup. So anyone else? Any more thoughts?
It's not much to have thoughts on this one, really.
No. We'll find out. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our newest segment. We have the bright side of life, which, you know what, listener? This is the second one that we've done that I've been a part of. And, you know, this is great and I love it. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Caleb. Go ahead.
Yeah. I kind of stole this one from the other two, I gotta say. So, listener, there's a podcast that all three of us listen to that, you know, we don't really plug other like tech podcasts or anything like that on this podcast. And I'm going to stick with that because this is not a tech podcast. This is a music podcast. It's called The Soundtrack Show. And listener, if you like movies and you like music in movies, you have to go listen to this.
Yes.
There's like a lovely backlog of things that you can go listen to, but David W. Collins is the host. He puts this thing together and goes into awesome levels of depth on the soundtracks of movies and TV shows. He's done both. He has done Star Wars trilogy in the past. He's done Star Trek stuff in the past. He's just finished recently doing a 4-part or 5-part, if you count if you include the interview series on The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. And he's done Fellowship of the Ring as well. Can't wait for him get to Return of the King at some point.
Right.
So he's also done stuff like E.T. and Jaws, and
he did the Super Mario theme song.
Yeah.
He did. Yes, he did. He's done Ocarina of Time, like a whole series on Ocarina of Time, and has talked about like various Nintendo games and and that kind of thing, because he's worked in TV, he's worked in movies, and he has worked on video games as well. So he's kind of got like insight into all of this, but he does his research. It's all really good, and he has a lot of really fun, interesting insights to bring into all of this stuff. And like I said, just recently, like when he first started out the show, he intended it to be a weekly show, but that kind of fell by the wayside after about a year, because I think he has other things going on in his life, you know, like he has a job. He's a fairly successful, like, you know, film and video game and TV, music, like person. He works. So he couldn't keep up with the weekly schedule, but he'll periodically put together like, okay, we're going to do a series on this, and he'll do like multiple episodes on it. And then you have a period after that series finishes where there's a period of time where there's no soundtrack show. And it's kind of sad. I always feel a little bit sad during those downtimes. And he just recently finished up Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. It's awesome. So
very good.
So good. And I always, like, again, like I said, I'm always a little bit sad. You know, about a month ago, he finished this up like, oh, that means we're not going to have any soundtrack show for like another 6 months or something like that. But this week there was a new episode on Star Wars The Phantom Menace. And that means, yeah, there's like a series starting on that, and I am stoked. So yeah, listener, if you like movies, you like music, you have to go listen to this podcast. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that brightened my mood this week a lot.
Well, and like the other thing, like I obviously love his rundowns of like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, those things. But one of my favorites is the ones that he's done on Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
Like you wouldn't realize just like how much of that, like the song, like there's regular songs in those movies, but they were made for the movies, and I didn't know that. Like,
yeah.
And like they became just regular pop songs out in the world, but they were made for, like, he goes into such great detail, and like,
oh, it's awesome.
And you can tell he's a fan of these movies along with the music, because he just goes into the lore and the backstory, and like his stuff on Lord of the Rings is so impeccable. Good. Like, it's not just music. Like, if you're just a fan of the movies, it's worth listening to, because he talks about the books, the movies, like the reason why certain things are written the way that it's it's amazing.
And with Lord of the Rings in particular, if you're a fan of the movies and you feel like you don't really care about the music, you just like the movies, I would challenge you to go listen to his series on those movies.
Yeah.
And try and tell me at the end of that you're not a fan of the music, because you are. Even if you're not really a music person, just the amount of thought and care that went into the music for those movies, in terms of making it Lord of the Rings, in terms of making it Tolkien and Middle Earth and all of that stuff, incredible. And he covers all of it. And I can't imagine how you could like Tolkien and like Lord of the Rings and come out the other end of that with the understanding that every single word uttered in the music, right? All the choral bits, everything that's in it, that just sounds like gibberish, because I don't speak Elvish, I don't speak Dwarvish, I don't speak the Morgul tongue or anything like that. Those are all words. It's all written in the languages that Tolkien wrote for Lord of the Rings, and it all makes sense. A lot of it is lyrics pulled straight from Tolkien's writing. Like, it's great. And he covers all of it and gives you the translations and stuff. So it's super great show. Highly recommend.
Yes.
Also, I would also say this inspired me to watch movies or things that I never did watch.
Yeah.
So, for example, believe it or not, I don't watch a lot of Star Trek.
Shame.
Really. Or like I did watch the first Superman, but he did the whole like Superman 1, 2, 3 something. Yeah. I went through and I watched these after I listened to the show, because it made you know how like I guess, for example, like I was able to appreciate these movies way more and actually go watch them and be like, oh, that's what he was talking about. So I was able to appreciate the art of this. Because if you were to say, hey, let's go watch Superman 3, I'd probably, why? But now I went saw. So Star Trek. It's not that I don't like Star Trek. I just
So you went back and watched the entire first season of the original series? Is that
I
what
watched
you're
some
saying?
of
'Cause
those,
he
yes,
covered
and
the whole thing.
and he did. Like I did. I watched some of them. I'm like, oh wow, this totally it changes. Like I can't.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
that
funny because
was-
like when I rewatched Lord of the Rings after I listened to this, I was just like, that's what he's talking about. I know
Yeah.
why this is significant, and this is and of course
Yeah.
my family's like, what are you not doing? Nothing. Just let me have my moment.
Well,
Dad,
and
you've seen these
fascinating-
80 times. Come on.
The fascinating thing about the Star Trek one in particular is that he took that opportunity, because that's not a movie, that's a TV show, to like really delve into how it's different writing music for a TV show than it is versus a movie or a video game, and like really get into the nitty gritty about how, yeah, you've got like these 5 different composers that are composing like cues and chunks of music that are then being edited into the scores for these episodes. And like, you know, that's an aspect of TV show creation that I had never even thought about.
Yeah.
And we're getting all this great detail about it. I was like, oh, dang, it's cool. It's so cool.
It's
See,
so recommend it.
You can tell, listener, that I definitely stole this one from both of
You
them
did.
just because I got to this
100%.
section first in our notes.
Yeah.
100%.
The other
did,
thing I
so.
love about his stuff is like, as the title explains, it is the soundtrack show. And listener, you may not realize that a soundtrack is technically not the score. The soundtrack
Yes.
is just all the sound in a movie.
Mhm.
And he
Yep.
does go in to that as well. Like he talks about
Yeah.
foley and stuff like all the details in certain sound, like especially with Lord of the Rings, he goes into depth
Oh, yeah.
about like why they made this character sound this way, and all, it's so
Yeah.
cool.
I think one of my favorite segments, or things that he does, is he's like, if you actually watch this movie, he's like, no music actually shows up in this amount of time.
Mhm.
And I didn't notice that for Back to the Future. He's like,
Yeah.
you don't hear any orchestral music until the car's revealed. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Like he points out the moments where there is silence in the score,
yes.
or just in the movie overall, and talks about what's the significance here. How are the creators using this
Yeah.
to tell the story, to further the plot and communicate things to the audience that you're picking up on subconsciously? But then he
So
points
good.
it out and you're all like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? It's like so obvious, but yeah, you're not really paying attention to that when you're watching something to consume it for entertainment. And that's what makes it effective. And yeah, it's great.
So we could have our own podcast
We
about
could probably,
that podcast.
yeah, we could do a
Be
podcast
totally honest.
talking about this podcast. Yeah.
We'll move on. So, another part of the bright side of life. Now it's my turn. I decided I found out that this is so I listen to music, and apparently this music, my kids tell me now, is called dad rock. So I appreciate dad rock. You know, there's many other terms that I've heard with different genres in the same. Okay, I listen. Yes, I listened to the at the time it was called pop punk, or the alternative, if you will.
Yeah.
So also ska. Apparently that's wrapped into dad rock as well. So I just appreciate, because there's times of the day if I need to change my attitude, or I'm upset, or I need this, or I need a pump, I have my playlist, just boom, turn it on, and I'll just start singing my song going. My day just turns out better. And what's awesome is I have a thing where it's just my likes for ska, or I started putting it together as dad rock. So I just pick one and go. And my favorite thing to do is when I've got the kids with me, I'm like, here, take this and turn on dad rock, and I have to name the song, the album, and who is this? The band, the album, and this here. And I have to go through it, and it's just so fun. I'm a nerd for that genre and that stuff for some reason. Just love it. So I like dad rock. It's fun.
Yeah.
So total nerd. Isn't it funny that we went from music to another thing of music? All right, Landon, you better have some music up in there. Landon, it's your turn. The bright side.
Sadly, mine is not music related this week. But the thing for my bright side of life this week is I get to go skiing tomorrow as of recording. So, and listener, I love skiing. I've had a season pass for quite a while. I used to work at a ski resort. It's something that has been a big thing in my life for a long time. And I haven't been able to go for the past month for lots of different reasons that I don't need to get into right now. But I am very excited to be able to go skiing again tomorrow. And the place that I go to has recently got a decent amount of snow. And so I'm looking forward to having some relatively fresh snow to ski in. And yes, I'm very excited about that. So that's my bright side of life this week is skiing.
Which is good. Perfect. Well, listener, this is the end of the episode. Unless, Landon, you got one more thing for us.
No, I don't.
Awesome. Well, listener, thank you for sticking with us this long. This is probably one of the longer episodes that we've had.
It's been a while since we've had one this long.
We appreciate you listening. Appreciate that. If you want to go check out our brand new website, if you want to get a hold of us, you can. And check out there. You can go to callingallplatforms.com. Take a look at that. It also has links to our social medias as well as YouTube, which anything you want to drop? You want a 7-second little thing, the new logo or anything? Or
You know what? I'm going to do that now.
Yes!
I'm going to make a 7-second video of our logo.
I was going to say, just keep the logo the same.
Yeah,
Yes.
just make it the same.
I'm
I like
I'm
it.
just going to take the front and end of our YouTube videos and just smash them together. That's about 7 seconds. Just post that.
Jeez. That would be hilarious. All right, you can do that, listener. Check out that video. That threw me off a little bit. All right, listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.